Hi everybody, my name is Kristen Gates for those of you who don't know me, and today I'm going to be talking about human trafficking. So what I'm going to do first is show you guys just a quick little 1-minute video going into a little bit more detail about what human trafficking is, talking about some of the different types and some facts for you guys, and after that we're going to dig into it just a little bit deeper. So I'm going to go ahead and put that video on for you right now. So the reason I wanted to talk about human trafficking is because it is such a big issue in our society today, and I don't feel as though it gets enough attention that it should. I also have a very large passion for this just because it's something that I have done a lot of research in, and it needs to be more known throughout the world because I feel as though if people know more about it, then we can do things to stop it, raise awareness. I also want to be in the law enforcement industries, and long-term goal would be obviously working as like a detective in a unit like this or something along those lines. So my credibility, I have done lots of research for other classes, law classes, I've written papers. Also, fun things you can do is take classes online towards this. You can look up human trafficking classes or even go in person and take courses. It's really interesting just to see things and hear things that you honestly would never know unless you took these classes. So we're going to talk about three main points today. The first we're going to talk about is the different types of trafficking. There are many types. There is not just human sex trafficking, which is probably the most known. We're also going to talk about how human traffickers operate and how they prey on their victims. And the third thing we're going to talk about today are signs and prevention. So the first type we're going to talk about is forced labor. So what that basically is you're enslaving people. Most of the time you'll find these people in fishing, textile, construction, agriculture industries. So what it means is there's a threat of penalty for which the person has not offered themselves voluntarily for. So for example, workers who employers retain wages for. So if your worker's telling you, I'm not going to pay you, and you have to work, they're forcing you to work. The second type we're going to talk about is child forced labor. Usually you range from about 5 to 17 years old. There is about 152 million kids a year being trafficked. You can see them working on heavy objects, lifting heavy loads, building weapons, going into garbage cans, climbing into mines, all types of things like that that are just harmful to children. If it is mentally, physically, socially, and or morally dangerous or harmful that interferes with them. The third is bonded labor. Basically, that's debt bondage, so going into slavery because of debt. So you could start working for somebody because you owe them money or you have debt with them, and then they hold the money from you, so you'll never essentially be able to pay them back. So you're basically always going to be working for them because you cannot pay their debt. The next one we're going to talk about is sex trafficking, which is obviously the most well-known type of trafficking. So obviously this occurs when someone uses force or fraud to coerce someone into a sexual act, whether it's an adult or a minor. There's three people usually involved in that. There's a buyer, a trafficker, and a victim. They usually use fear, violence, or intimidation to approach these individuals and lure them in. Sadly enough, the average age is about 14 to 16 years old that you are seeing most of these people trafficked. Also, something to take into consideration is it is not just females, it is also males as well. The next one we're going to talk about are child soldiers. Pretty much self-explanatory. It's about forcing kids at a young age to join the military or fight wars. It's obviously not as common now, especially in the United States. You don't see that, but you do have to understand these things aren't just happening here, they're happening all around the world. They can be as young as 8 years old, serving in governments and armed forces groups. They can fight on the front line, participate in suicide missions, act as spies, messengers, or be on lookouts. And usually those kids are approached by force and being forced into it. The next thing we're going to talk about are how human traffickers look for victims and how do they find these victims. Basically, they're going to look for people who live in unstable living conditions, have history of domestic violence, substance abuse, runaways, undocumented immigrants, drug and alcohol addicted people, as well as people in poverty. Those people are more susceptible to it because they feel as though they don't have another option and they're just going to fall into it. They find these people online in chat rooms, chat lines, local clubs, on the street, homes, homeless people. Social media is a very, very big one now. Shopping malls, schools, you name it, they're everywhere. And you really have to be aware that these are normal people. They look like one of us. So signs that someone could possibly be a victim of human trafficking is they show signs of physical abuse, they lack food, water, malnutrition, lack of medical care and sleep, limited communication. Maybe you don't see a 15, 16-year-old with a lot of social media, cell phone, anything like that. They'd be living in a very small living situation, whether that be in a room with multiple people or in just a very unstable house. They're also always going to be with somebody in public. That way they can't run away or can't get away or can't tell anybody what is going on. You might see locks on all windows and doors in that house, and they might not have any ID to show you. Ways you can prevent this are basically know the warning signs, know what's going on around you. If you see something, say something, take action, be informed. There are so many numbers and information you can get just to have on you at all times because you honestly never know when you're going to need them. You can volunteer and support. There are numerous organizations and clubs and things you can do to get involved in your local community. I just want to conclude with I hope that you guys were able to become more educated in the fact that this is such a prominent issue today, and there are not just one types, there's multiple types. So what I want you to do is just be aware, stay informed, know what's going on around you, take that into consideration. If you see something, say something, take action. You could be saving someone's life. I have a huge passion for this, and I've noticed that now when I'm out in public, I'm very more aware of what's going on, and I see things, and obviously it's going on around me and I could never have any signs and there's something I can do, but it's the one time that I do see something and I do act on it that I could possibly be saving someone's life. My Works Cited page, and then I have 2 questions for the class. My first question is going to be, what do you think are some of the reasons why victims do not try and escape or get help? And my second question is going to be, what are some red flags to you that signify the possibility of human trafficking and would urge you to get some help? So I do hope that this presentation helped you learn a little bit more, and thank you.